The Valari Union had ruled its part of the galaxy for many centuries. They were a proud civilization, filled with tall crystal towers, beautiful cities floating above calm oceans, and fleets of silver ships that glided through the stars like ribbons of light. For generations they believed themselves to be unshakable, the strongest force in the known universe. But then the Carrick swarm came. The swarm was not like any normal enemy. It was not an empire nor a kingdom with a flag. It was a tide of living hunger. The Carrick came in endless numbers, their ships more like hives than vessels, dark and twisted with organic armor that repaired itself even under fire. Wherever they landed, they consumed worlds, stripping oceans, forests, and even the atmosphere. Civilizations that had stood for thousands of years were swallowed in weeks. At first, the Valari Union believed their fleets could hold the line. They sent thousands of ships armed with their most powerful plasma weapons, their finest admirals leading the charge. But each battle ended the same. The Carrick were slowed, never stopped. Every victory was paid with fleets destroyed and colonies burning. By the 5th month of war, the Valari's strongest fortress world had fallen. By the 6th, trade routes had collapsed. Refugees filled the inner systems, carrying nothing but fear. The once proud Union Council now met in secret chambers, their voices trembling. "We cannot stop them," whispered Councillor Relith, her silver skin pale under the chamber lights. "Every defense we raise is torn down. Every world we protect becomes ash." "The Carrick cannot be reasoned with," another councillor said. "They have no leaders to bargain with, no cities to destroy. They are only hunger." Some proposed surrender, but surrender to the swarm meant death. Others argued to seal the core worlds and abandon the frontier. But all of them knew the truth. The swarm would never stop until everything was gone. It was then that an old name was spoken, one written only in ancient star charts. Sol. The chamber grew silent when the word was said. For centuries that system had been marked in red across every Union map, a dangerous star with a single blue world, Earth, orbiting it. The Valari knew of Earth only from whispers. They called it a death world, a planet so violent that life should not even exist there. Its gravity was heavy, its storms endless, its seas filled with predators, its lands crawling with deadly creatures. And yet, somehow against all odds, intelligent beings had survived there. Not only survived, they had thrived. Legends told of these beings, humans. Creatures of bone and blood who fought each other for dominance, who tamed beasts larger than themselves, who walked across deserts and froze in polar nights yet never stopped. They were said to be too wild to join the Union, too dangerous to trust. For centuries, their system was left alone. But now, as the swarm closed in, desperation drove the Valari Council to consider what once was unthinkable. "If the stories are true," whispered Councillor Relith, "perhaps they are what we need. Perhaps the Deathworlders can stand where we fall." Murmurs filled the chamber. Many objected. Humans were savages, they said. They had no place in civilized wars. But fear was stronger than pride. At last, the Union voted to send a single message. The beacon was launched into the void, a signal of distress written in every galactic tongue. It traveled across the darkness, bouncing from relay to relay until finally it reached Sol. Then the Union waited. Days passed. Then weeks. Some began to mock the decision, claiming the humans would never come. Others feared that the humans had perished long ago, their violent world having claimed them. But one quiet night when the Valari Council gathered again, alarms rang through the capital. Unfamiliar ships had arrived at the edge of their system. The council rushed to the observation decks, expecting another swarm incursion. Instead, they saw a fleet unlike any they had known. The ships were not smooth or elegant like Valari cruisers. They were rough, scarred, and heavy. Some were painted with strange symbols. Others looked patched together with metal plates. They did not glide like ribbons of light. They moved like predators, sharp and purposeful. A message came through, simple and direct. "This is the fleet of Earth. We received your call. Tell us where the enemy is." The Valari councillors stared in disbelief. The voices speaking were firm but not cruel. They did not ask for tribute or gold. They did not demand oaths of loyalty. "Do you not understand?" Councillor Relith said, trembling. "The swarm cannot be beaten. We only asked for help because we had no choice. You cannot fight them alone." There was a long silence from the human fleet. Then came the reply, calm and certain, "We can, and we will. You asked for aid. You will have it. The council fell quiet. For the first time in months, there was something in the chamber that had not been there before. It was not peace nor safety. It was something rarer. It was hope. And so the Union watched as the fleet of Earth, the Deathworlders, turned its weapons toward the stars where the swarm waited. They had called for aid, and the galaxy would soon learn what it meant when the Deathworlders of Earth answered. Farchingru. The Deathworlders arrive. The first sight of the human fleet made the Valari Council gasp. These were not the tall, sleek ships they were used to, nor the elegant formations their admirals trained for. Instead, the human ships were rugged and battered. Hulls were patched with mismatched metal plates. Engines emitted smoke and fire that no Valari ship would ever show in public. Yet there was power in every movement, a purpose that no polished warship could match. The humans did not wait for permission. They deployed fast-moving scout ships to the edges of the system, sending strange signals and firing small charges that lit the darkness with sudden bursts of light. The Valari scientists and engineers watched in awe. The humans' tactics seemed reckless, almost careless, but there was an intelligence behind it, a pattern that slowly revealed itself. Then the first reports came in. A Karrak scouting fleet had entered the outer orbit of a Valari colony world. Panic swept the Union's command centers. The Council expected death, but instead the humans struck immediately. Scout ships darted in like lightning, weaving around the Karrak ships. Humans deployed small assault pods directly into enemy formations. The Karrak responded with violent energy blasts, tearing chunks of space apart. The Valari watched through the observation decks, hearts in their throats, and then something remarkable happened. The humans fought not to avoid damage, they fought through it. A damaged ship would ram another Karrak vessel to break its formation. Another human ship would split off, towing disabled ships back into battle. Their fighters moved like living predators, coordinating with signals and shouts that no Valari technology could match. Within hours, the Karrak scouting fleet had been scattered. Few ships survived. The Valari Council could not believe it. They survived a swarm attack, Councillor Relith whispered. And not just survived. They won. A young Valari officer, her blue eyes wide with shock, replied, "It's not just their ships. Look at the ground teams. The humans. They walk without armor, without shields, and they are not afraid. They move through the fire as if it is air. They are fearless. The humans were indeed fearless. When the Union provided access to their colonies, human soldiers strode through the streets. They wore light armor, carrying weapons that were crude by Valari standards, yet effective. They did not flinch at collapsed buildings or toxic gas leaks. They rescued the wounded without hesitation, repairing structures with strange machines in minutes. The Valari began to ask questions. How could these humans survive where others died? How could they fight so recklessly yet always win? The answers came quickly, in the words of a human commander who introduced himself as Captain Mara Vance. She stood tall on the observation deck of her flagship, addressing the Union Council. "We are from a world where death is normal," she said simply. "Earth is a death world. Every day is a fight. Storms, predators, disease. We live with them all. You call us reckless. We call it life." Councillor Relith could only nod, realizing the truth in the human words. These beings were not bound by fear. Where the Union prepared for the worst, the humans thrived in chaos. The next few days brought more battles. The Karrak, realizing something was different, attacked in greater numbers. Entire fleets of the swarm moved toward Valari systems, confident in their numbers. But the humans did not retreat. They met the Karrak in open space, deploying ship after ship in formations that seemed chaotic but were perfectly synchronized. The humans used unconventional weapons, some that the Valari had never seen before. Magnetic nets that tore enemy hulls apart, explosive drones that moved like small living creatures. Lasers and missiles fired in patterns that seemed random, but cut through enemy ranks with surgical precision. The Valari officers whispered among themselves. "They are insane," one said. "No, not insane," another replied. "They are perfect for war." On the ground, humans were even more astounding. Valari colonies had been abandoned for fear of Karrak ground forces. But human teams walked into destroyed streets, navigating traps and hazards that would have killed any Valari soldier. They cleared enemies with small squads, never pausing, always moving forward. In one colony, Captain Mara personally led a team to rescue a trapped family, The building was unstable and fire was everywhere. Volari drones had refused the attempt, claiming the risks were too high. Yet Mara and her team climbed through crumbling walls, dodged falling beams, and emerged victorious, the family safe in human hands. It was during this rescue that the Volari realized another truth. Humans valued life, but they valued strength even more. They expected everyone around them to fight, to survive, to adapt. No hesitation, no surrender, only action. By the end of the first week, the Carrick fleets had been slowed. Entire swarms that had once moved without resistance now faced a new force. Humans who could take punishment, adapt to every attack, and strike back with unexpected ferocity. The Volari fleets followed their lead, learning new tactics, inspired by humans who treated death as a teacher, not a fear. Finally, the Union Council asked the question that had been burning in every mind. Why? Why do you fight for us? We are strangers. We asked for help, but the cost will be high. Captain Mara's reply was simple yet chilling in its certainty. You called for aid, she said. We heard it. That is all we need. We do not ask for reward. We do not seek glory. When someone asks for help, it is our duty to answer. And we do not run from monsters. We hunt them. The Volari Council sat in stunned silence. They had sent a call across the galaxy, expecting perhaps pity or advice or nothing at all. Instead, they had received warriors unlike any they had imagined. Humans were not only survivors, they were hunters, predators of the deadliest kind. And they had arrived. As the fleet prepared for the next major attack, the Volari knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be the same. The Deathworlders of Earth had come, and wherever they fought, the tide would turn. Before the humans arrived, the Carrick swarm seemed unstoppable, their endless fleets pushing the Volari Union closer to destruction. But now, for the first time, the swarm was on the defensive. Human fleets struck them again and again, not with perfect formations or elegant maneuvers, but with relentless aggression. Every time a human ship fell, two more charged forward. Every time the swarm adapted, the humans shifted tactics in ways no one expected. Yet even so, the war was far from over. The swarm gathered its strength for a final blow. Word came that an enormous Carrick fleet was moving toward the Volari capital itself, a fleet so vast that even human commanders paused when they saw the scans. Thousands of hive ships, each bristling with organic weapons, each capable of birthing countless fighters. The capital was the heart of the Union. If it fell, there would be no recovery. The Volari Council panicked. Some urged evacuation, others argued for surrender. But the humans did not waver. On the flagship Resolute Dawn, Captain Mara Vance stood before her officers. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried the fire of determination. This is it, she said. The swarm thinks they can break us with numbers. They've never met humans in full strength. Send the signal. Across the galaxy, the message went out. And within days, Sewell answered. From the darkness of space came Earth's war fleet. Not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands of ships. Some were sleek carriers bristling with fighters. Others were massive battleships, their cannons glowing with raw power. Many were old freighters converted into weapons platforms patched with steel and paint, but armed to the teeth. Together they formed a sight no alien had ever imagined. The combined might of humanity, united in purpose. When the Volari saw them, their fear shifted to awe. The humans had not sent only soldiers, they had brought their whole people. Families stood on troop carriers. Engineers rode supply ships ready to rebuild. Doctors filled medical frigates. This was not just a war. It was a declaration. Earth stands with you. The Carrick fleet arrived in a tide of shadow, blackening the stars with their numbers. Their hives stretched as far as the eye could see. The swarm surged forward, confident that victory was near. And then the humans struck. The opening volley shook space itself. Human battleships fired rail cannons that hurled slugs faster than light. Carriers launched endless wings of fighters, each moving with deadly precision. Converted freighters, patched with scraps of steel, charged directly into hive formations, detonating in explosions that tore holes in the swarm. The Carrick fought back with fury, blasting through human and Volari ships alike. The void filled with fire and wreckage. On the ground, the Union's capital prepared for invasion. Carrick drop pods rained down, burning through the atmosphere. Volari soldiers braced for slaughter. But human Marines were already there. They met the swarm in the streets, fighting with blades, rifles, and sheer determination. Where Valari shields collapsed, humans stood shoulder to shoulder, forming walls of firepower. The battle raged for hours. The swarm pressed harder, their numbers never ending. But humans had something the Karuk lacked: willpower. They fought not only for victory but for survival, for every child and family behind them, for every world they refused to lose. Captain Mara directed the fleet with a mix of courage and instinct. She ordered sudden charges, reckless flanks, maneuvers no Valari admiral would ever dare. Time and again her ships tore through enemy lines. Yet the swarm kept coming, wave after wave. Finally, Mara gave a single command that stunned her allies. Bring it in. From the shadow of a nearby moon emerged Earth's final weapon, a massive ship, larger than any the Valari had ever seen. It was not elegant. It was not new. But it was armed with rail cannons the size of cities, missiles that could crack planets, and armor thick enough to withstand the swarm's fury. The ship's name burned across its hull in bold human letters: Indomitable. The Indomitable unleashed its fury. A single volley destroyed entire clusters of hive ships. Its cannons tore holes straight through the heart of the swarm. For the first time, the Karuk hesitated. Their endless tide faltered. The humans did not stop. With the Indomitable leading, the fleet surged forward. Valari ships followed, inspired by the Deathworlders' courage. Together they pressed the swarm back, forcing them to retreat, system by system, until the great hive fleet was broken. On the ground, the humans held the capital. Streets that had burned with battle now echoed with cheers. Valari children looked up at human soldiers with awe, their fear replaced by hope. The Union's leaders, once trembling in fear, now stood proud beside their new allies. When the last Karuk ship fled into the void, the war was over. In the aftermath, the Valari Council gathered with the human commanders. Their voices shook with gratitude. "What reward do you ask?" Counselor Relith said. "You saved us from destruction. You gave us back our future. We will give you anything: gold, technology, worlds to rule." "Name your price," Captain Mara smiled, shaking her head. "We don't want your gold," she said. "We don't need your worlds." "You asked for aid," we answered. "That's what humans do. When monsters come, we don't run. We fight." The chamber fell silent. The Valari counselors realized then that they had seen something greater than power. They had seen resilience, courage, and a strength born not from wealth or comfort, but from survival itself. From that day forward, the galaxy remembered. The swarm had faced every empire, every kingdom, every fleet, and triumphed. But against the Deathworlders of Earth, they had been broken. And so a legend spread through the stars, whispered in awe and fear alike. Never underestimate a human, for they come from the Deathworld, and when